The cold wind howled through the empty streets of New York City, weaving between towering skyscrapers that shined with the promise of success that Liam Carter had never found. He sat on a worn-out wooden stool, his fingers numb from the biting cold, gripping the neck of his old acoustic guitar. The instrument was his last connection to the dreams he once had, dreams that now felt like distant memories. The strings were frayed, the wood scratched, and a deep crack ran along the body, but he played anyway. His voice, once full of passion, now carried a painful weariness. The songs he sang were not just lyrics but echoes of his broken past. People rushed past him, their faces buried in scarves, their minds occupied with their own busy lives. A few threw coins into his open guitar case, but most ignored him as if he were invisible. Liam wasn't just a street performer, he was a man who had lost everything. Once he had a dream. Liam had come to New York 5 years ago, his heart filled with dreams of becoming a musician. He had played in small bars, hoping for his big break. But the industry was brutal. No one wanted a struggling artist. Rejection after rejection had crushed his confidence. Then the real downfall came. His girlfriend left him, tired of waiting for his success. His father passed away, leaving him alone in a city that now felt like a prison. He had lost his apartment, his friends, and eventually, his hope. Now, he played on these cold sidewalks, surviving on whatever people gave. A small symbol of his past. As he strummed the strings, his eyes drifted to a folded, yellowed letter tucked inside his guitar case. A letter from his mother, written years ago before she passed. Never stop believing in yourself, Liam. Your music will touch the world someday. He swallowed hard. Those words once filled him with fire. Now they only brought pain. He had stopped believing. Hopeless and stuck. As the night deepened, fewer people stopped to listen. A group of young men in expensive coats passed by, laughing. One of them mockingly clapped. "Hey man, play us something that'll make us rich," one of them shouted, tossing a penny into the case. The others laughed. Liam clenched his jaw but said nothing. He had heard worse insults before. Just then, a black SUV pulled up nearby. The door opened and a man stepped out. His long coat flowed with the wind, and the dim streetlights illuminated his sharp features. Liam had no idea that Johnny Depp had just walked into his life. Liam lowered his head, pretending not to notice the laughter of the wealthy men mocking him. He had long learned that responding would only make things worse. But then, silence. The laughter stopped. The chatter around him faded. A sudden shift in the atmosphere made Liam look up. A man stood a few feet away, his hands tucked into the pockets of a long, dark coat. His deep brown eyes studied Liam with a quiet intensity, his expression unreadable. There was something familiar about him. The sharp cheekbones, the effortless coolness, the air of someone who had seen both the dark and the light of life. It took Liam a moment to realize this was Johnny Depp. The group of rich men, who had been laughing just moments ago, now stood awkwardly, exchanging glances. One of them spoke up, trying to sound casual. "Whoa, is that?" Johnny ignored them. His focus was entirely on Liam. The street performer swallowed hard. He had seen Johnny Depp in movies, interviews, and headlines, but never had he expected to see him standing here, watching him play music on the cold streets of New York. Johnny tilted his head slightly. "Mind if I listen?" he asked, his voice smooth but genuine. Liam hesitated. No one had ever asked permission to listen before. People either threw coins or ignored him. He nodded slowly. "Sure." Liam adjusted his grip on his guitar and played, a slow, aching melody, something that came from deep inside him. His fingers trembled slightly, not from the cold this time, but from the strange weight of the moment. As he played, Johnny remained silent, nodding gently to the rhythm. There was no judgment in his eyes, no pity, just understanding. When the last note faded into the night air, Johnny spoke. "That was beautiful." Liam let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. The group of wealthy men, sensing that Johnny Depp's attention was on Liam, tried to insert themselves into the moment. "Hey Johnny, you should hear this guy do something more lively. This sad stuff won't get him anywhere." One of them chuckled. Johnny's eyes flicked to them, his expression unchanging. Music isn't about playing what people want to hear. It's about playing what you feel. His voice carried an edge of quiet authority, and the men fell silent. Liam felt a lump in his throat. Someone had finally defended him. Johnny turned back to him. "Do you always play here?" Liam shrugged. "Most nights. It's all I have left." Johnny studied him for a long moment. Then, he did something completely unexpected. He pulled out his wallet, took out a $100 bill, and placed it in Liam's guitar case. But something about his expression said, this wasn't the end of it. Liam frowned slightly. I appreciate that, but..." Johnny smiled faintly. "Don't thank me yet." And with that, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the night. Liam stared after him, a strange feeling brewing in his chest. He had no idea that this one moment was about to change everything. Liam sat there, staring at the $100 bill Johnny Depp had just placed in his guitar case. It wasn't about the money. He had seen people throw in large bills before, but this felt different. Johnny's words, "Don't thank me yet," echoed in his mind. What did he mean? Liam shook his head. Celebrities didn't just help random street performers. Johnny had probably just been passing through, impressed by the music, and that was it. At least, that's what Liam thought. The next night, Liam was setting up his guitar when a man in a suit approached him. "Are you Liam Carter?" the man asked. Liam tensed. He wasn't used to people asking for his name. He nodded cautiously. "Yeah? Who's asking?" The man smiled. "I work with Mr. Depp. He'd like to see you." Liam blinked. His fingers tightened around the guitar strap. "Johnny Depp?" The man nodded. "He's expecting you at the Rosewood Hotel. A car is waiting." Liam's heart pounded. This had to be some kind of mistake. Or worse, a prank. But something inside him whispered, "Go." 30 minutes later, Liam found himself standing in the lobby of one of the most luxurious hotels in New York. His clothes were worn out, his guitar case scratched, and he felt completely out of place. Then he saw him. Johnny Depp was seated in a private lounge, a glass of wine in hand, his expression relaxed but focused. He looked up as Liam approached and smiled. "Glad you came." Liam sat down, his legs still stiff with uncertainty. "Look," Johnny began, leaning forward. "I didn't just stop to listen last night because I liked your music. I saw something in you, something real. The world needs more artists like that." Liam's throat went dry. "I appreciate that, but..." Johnny waved a hand. "Let me finish." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a business card. "I made a call to someone who owes me a favor. There's a producer looking for raw talent. I told him about you." Liam's breath caught in his chest. "You have an audition tomorrow." Silence. Liam stared at the business card in his hands, his fingers trembling. Was this really happening? His voice was barely above a whisper. Why would you do this for me?" Johnny gave a small smile, his eyes reflecting something deep. "Because once upon a time, someone took a chance on me when I had nothing. Now it's my turn." Liam felt his entire world shift. This wasn't just a kind gesture. This was a second chance. Liam sat in the waiting room of the recording studio, his fingers gripping his guitar so tightly that his knuckles turned white. His heart pounded against his ribs, his mind racing with doubt. "This is crazy. This isn't real. I don't belong here." But then he looked down at the business card Johnny Depp had given him. It felt like a lifeline, a reminder that someone legendary, believed in him. The door opened. "Liam Carter?" a voice called. Taking a deep breath, Liam stood and stepped inside. The recording studio was intimidating, glass panels, high-tech sound equipment, and a group of industry professionals sitting behind the console. Among them was David Sterling, a well-known music producer with a reputation for turning unknowns into stars. Johnny Depp was already there, leaning against the wall, watching. Liam's throat went dry. David folded his arms. "Johnny tells me you've got something special. Let's see if he's right." Liam swallowed hard. He adjusted the strap of his guitar, his fingers trembling as he strummed the first chord. Then he played. The room fell silent. His voice, raw and full of emotion, filled the space. He poured everything into the music. The pain of years struggling, the loneliness of being unseen, the hope that maybe, just maybe, this was his chance. When the last note faded, Liam dared to look up. David Sterling was leaning forward, his fingers resting on his chin. He exchanged a glance with Johnny. Then he nodded. "You've got something, kid?" Liam exhaled sharply, his eyes stinging with emotion. He had spent years begging people to listen, and now, someone finally heard him. Johnny walked over, placing a hand on Liam's shoulder. "Told you." Liam let out a breathless laugh. This wasn't a dream. This was real. His life had just changed forever. 1 year later, the sun set over Madison Square Garden, casting golden hues over the massive crowd gathered for the night's sold-out concert. Backstage, Liam Carter stood in front of a mirror, adjusting his leather guitar strap. His heart pounded, not with fear, but with excitement. Tonight wasn't just any performance. Tonight, he was headlining his first major show. A soft knock at the door. Liam turned to see Johnny Depp leaning against the frame, a small smile on his face. "Nervous?" Johnny asked. Liam let out a breathless chuckle. "More like overwhelmed." Johnny stepped inside, his eyes scanning the posters of Liam's album lining the walls. "You've come a long way, kid." Liam nodded, his chest tightening with emotion. "I still can't believe it sometimes. A year ago, I was playing on a sidewalk, getting mocked by strangers." Johnny's smile deepened. "And now? Those same people are paying to see you on stage." Liam laughed, shaking his head. "It's all because of you." Johnny held up a hand. "No, it's because of you. I just gave you a nudge. You did the rest." Liam swallowed hard, his eyes glistening. "I won't forget what you did for me." Johnny's expression softened. "Then don't. When the time comes, pass it forward." A crew member peeked in. "Liam, it's time." Liam took a deep breath. He grabbed his guitar, glanced at Johnny one last time, and stepped out onto the blazing stage. The crowd erupted. Bright lights. Roaring cheers. A moment he had only dreamed of. And in the front row, Johnny Depp watched proudly. Because once upon a time, someone had believed in him. And now, Liam's story was just beginning.